Hello everyone, and welcome to the election panel. Sakari Ropponen, the chair of the Student Union. And I'm Katariina Kokkonen, the board member of AYY responsible for social policy. And now we have 90 minutes with our wonderful candidates in this municipal election panel. Where we can hear these candidates and their groups' thoughts on Espoo. Wonderful to see all of you here. Thank you. And let's move on to the first question. About 1 minute, you will hear this sound when your time is up. So when you hear that sound, then please try and wrap things up. I will start with the introduction. This panel is also streamed and interpreted into English. So yes, if you could first introduce yourselves and tell us what you think is the best thing in Espoo. Yes. Hello, I'm Mika Poutala, member of the parliament, also a former Olympic athlete and entrepreneur. Been in politics for 4 years now. It's been very much fun. I couldn't even imagine that politics could be this much fun. It's different from what you usually see in the media. And the best thing about Espoo is the nature and the environment we have. And also the people. I'm born and I've lived in Helsinki most of my life. And at some point I thought that I will not move here to the countryside. But I've lived in Espoo now for about 10 years and I wouldn't want to move back to Helsinki. Yes. Yes, thank you. I'm Liina Isto, 29-year-old candidate from the Finnish party. I worked as a Secretary General for the youth organization for the Finnish party, graduated in business. I live in Haukilahti, moved quite recently. I previously lived in Helsinki as well. And the best thing in Espoo, this idyllic, peaceful neighborhoods that are still close to services, workplaces, and also Helsinki. Hello, I'm Peppi Seppälä, member of the Municipal Council from the Green League. Thought for a long time what's my favorite thing, and as a member of the Green League, maybe I should have said kind of the immediate nature, but actually I want to say Otaniemi because I wouldn't live here in Espoo without Otaniemi. I know the significant growth in my life has happened in Otaniemi. I got into politics, I became a feminist and found a lot of close friends and also found myself here in Otaniemi. I sound like fishing for your votes, but this is really the best community I've ever been a part of. Yes, good day everyone. Yeah, Vanhanen from member of the Municipal Council from Kokkonen, the National Coalition Party. I study here in Aalto business for the 4th year now. Economic Sciences in the master's program. And Otaniemi is one of the best places here, best things about here in Espoo. But I also want to mention something that hasn't been mentioned. So the best thing in Espoo is that we have high quality education from early childhood education to higher education. Which is something, well, for example, with the social and welfare and healthcare services have been moved to these well-being regions, we need to make sure that education and healthcare remain at the same good level. Elina Saarentaus, member of the Left Alliance in the municipal and regional elections, and quite a fresh face in politics, especially when compared to others here. I'm really looking forward to the discussion today. Experience in HR, development expert, also have a lot of background in sports associations. I think the most important thing in Espoo is this, that the nature is close. I'm from the countryside, much more from the countryside than what Espoo is. So yes, the nature being close by and having versatile outdoor opportunities is excellent. So I'm Julia from Swedish People's Party. I'm not an expert in the party, but also been the chair of the youth organization. Many good things have been mentioned. Otaniemi is great. I also visited the parties in Otaniemi, even though I mainly studied in Helsinki. Many different things to do here, activities, but you can also have some peace and quiet, and you really don't have to go that far away. Hello, Topi Kytölehto, teacher of history and social sciences. I'm formerly in student politics. I've lived in Espoo for 2 months now, or 3. The best thing in Espoo are the teekkaris. Nice to be here as a student of the humanities. And when you drive the highway Länsiväylä from Helsinki to Espoo, you can really feel yourself relaxing. Hello, I'm Jussi Holma, candidate from the Center Party, 42 years old. I have 7 children. We live in northern Espoo, Lahnus. They're actually more in the countryside. It's great to be here. I graduated a year ago from Aalto University as a graduate engineer. I worked as an entrepreneur for about 20 years, led a growth company, made an exit from the company last autumn, and now starting on new projects. I've been a member of the Municipal Council 2 times in Espoo previously. Best thing about Espoo, well, it's the nature, but also the sea and the archipelago, the #1 places. Yes. And if you could bring the microphone back here. Nice to hear all the things you mentioned about Espoo. And yes, you may hear yourself here. It's kind of an echo, but don't worry. The audience hears it better. And the next question is about public transport. HSL is under pressure to increase ticket prices even more, which makes them less attractive. HSL says that the reason for this is the funding system, where the infrastructure for public transport, the costs especially for building tracks, is collected through the HSL ticket income, even though HSL doesn't own these tracks. How would you promote public transport and make sure that it remains affordable? Yes, I've been a bit kind of annoyed. It's because of this feedback, a bit of echo, so thank you for mentioning it. But yes, to the actual question, many important factors here to get as many as possible as those who don't pay a ticket to get to buy the tickets so that they will take part in sharing the expenses, and also stop these massive projects that are too expensive, such as the 1-hour train. I think those are most important two things that come to mind. Yes, this infrastructure model is unique in the world. It's not based on anything rational. The city maintains the value and then also makes the users of public transport pay for the expenses, so they get the money 2 times over. I've opposed these increased prices to tickets myself, but unfortunately no other party in Espoo were in favor of this. All other parties were in favor of increasing the ticket prices. In addition to this infrastructure compensations or fees, they also have to pay an interest of 5%. So at least this interest could be done away with to decrease the pressure to increase ticket prices. For students, the ticket prices have increased the most. They previously had a 50% discount, and now it's about 40%. That's a good question. An important issue for many students. In the current situation, if we think about ticket prices, if we decrease them, it means that we have a poorer service level or that the taxpayers will pay more. And neither of these options is very feasible, especially from the Green League. I heard a bit about the populistic speech, especially at least from some candidates, that public transport should be free, which would cost about 300 million euros. Of course, that would be nice. But then there's the question that where do we get this 300 million euros from? Will it come from taxes, debt, or from cuts? So if you make cuts, then where do we get the 300 millions? So that's not a good solution. I would rather develop the public transport. It's important for students that there's public transport also during night time. Now the last bus during weekdays goes at 2 a.m. Thank you. Continue. Pertti said, my idea here is that these infrastructure projects should not be paid for by the ticket buyers, but rather the funding model should be examined critically. And maybe think about decreasing the share of the member municipalities. The HSL's this funding model is very exceptional when compared to other countries that make more use of taxpayers' money for these investments. It's a complex solution that we need, but it's also a political solution and decision when making these choices. Will we fund the infra with the current users and their money, or will we move to more municipally based solution? Yes, I also think that this funding model needs to change. But I also want to point out that the state could look at where the money actually moves in the public transport. And when you talk about accessible public transport, it's important to also keep in mind these parking spaces for highway junctions. Because if they're full, then I really don't have options. It's important to also see that those with a car will stop at some time, park their car, and then continue with public transport. Thank you. Yes, I'm a member of the representative of Social Democratic Party. I forgot to mention that before. Yes, it's very unsustainable, this funding model. HSL has more responsibilities, but no power that should come with it. And yes, we need to have a situation where public transport would be the best mode of transport for everyone. And especially for students, the prices shouldn't be too high. Also, the ticket prices need to be competitive that students would use public transport. Thank you. Good ideas been mentioned, especially when it comes to the development of the funding model, but also when we think about the economy, the markets. I believe that the ticket prices should be affordable for those that need it, students and pensioners, for example. But for example, for me, the ticket prices are not too expensive. So if it would be more attractive and better available to me, I could even pay more for it. I drive a car almost every day. I would rather use public transport if it would be better available for me. So also the supply and demand are important factors to take into account, the target groups. Yes, thank you. I forgot who I'm representing. The Christian Democratic Party. Espoo has quite good public transport. I came here via metro. It's easy to get here with metro from the parliament. Quite easy to get here also from home. And also, I think that public transport with these ticket prices would be able to also develop itself. If we want to have a discount to ticket prices, then some other group needs to pay more. But this is a good argument. Maybe that should we increase the prices of tickets for adults so that we could decrease the prices for students. But yes, this was talk about the infrastructure projects, and here the city could take a bigger part. Can I comment quickly? We'll have them later on. Oh, a strict panel. Yes, so that will stay within the schedule. And this next section relates to the employment of international students. So this will be in English.
Of international students. Go ahead.
So now that the work service palvelut has transferred to municipalities, this is an open up new opportunities for Espoo to help foreign people to find work. So we already had done quite a good job by combining companies and foreign students to help them find each other. But we also need to help companies to lower the threshold of language and also really think, do they need to have perfect Finnish speaking workers? But also we need to have better Finnish teaching, and it has to be able to be studied also in the evenings, not also only during the work days, because if you are at the work, then you cannot study Finnish. So that's a little bit not the best practice, but
Yeah, thanks for the good question. I think that the most important thing is that we make Espoo a good place to study and for the companies to invest, to grow and to succeed. And that's also the way how we get more international professionals in Espoo, because of course usually, for instance, the students who come here to Aalto University from all over the country or countries, they are very high skilled, and the demand for them is quite high. So we have to create the conditions for the firms and innovations to grow and succeed. But also, I think that after the studies, we should focus on that the international students stay in Espoo. And that means that this should be also a good place for families to grow, for spouses to work also. So we have to focus, for instance, on English schools, English daycare, and that the everyday life in Espoo is also good. And also we have to focus more on the integration of the immigrants.
Thank you. Very good points from the previous panelists. I could also sort of point to two sort of emphasis on this matter: collaboration between the employment services and, for example, academic or vocational entities, universities, and then the collaboration between international students and local employees. Maybe as a municipality, we could support that effort into like organizing different kinds of events to try to provide opportunities to connect and to grow those social networks for international students. According to some studies, at least foreign students find it very difficult to find a job if they don't have a social network, and that network provides like a sort of safety net and a better pathway to even like integrating into our local society and into Espoo, and maybe that way they would also feel more welcome to stay here after their studies.
Thank you. I'm not gonna say again everything that you guys said because you had good points. I just wanna maybe take into account the fact that you should be able to integrate in Swedish also in Espoo. Finnish isn't the only language that you should be able to speak here, and I feel like you should, for example, if you want the citizenship in that way, take the test in Swedish, and this is the first year that you're going to be able to do that in Espoo. My mother, for example, had to make every arrangement in Helsinki when she moved here from Estonia, and I feel like it's a missed opportunity because many times Swedish is easier to learn than Finnish. And also just like the main point of being able to live in Espoo in English as well. But if you feel like you want to learn the language and in that way kind of get bigger circles, then Swedish should be also an option.
The question is not how the students could profit from Espoo day service, it's how Espoo could profit from the students that are here, the international students. The village of Otaniemi here, it's a pretty safe place for students. It's really scary to go outside of here. And TE-palvelut is located in Matinkylä, in Matby. So, what if we combine these elements together? We should cooperate with the student union in their services, and that's the way. We have to invest in the cooperation of their services and students, and that's how both sides can profit.
Kiitos. Sain luvan vastata suomeksi tähän kysymykseen. Ja
I got the opportunity to answer in Finnish. Depends on how many students all in all have experience working. I would say that this all comes down to the fact that we all have a joint language. If people would have the better English than me, worked as an employer for 20 years, that's why I'm in Finnish, because I'm just bad at Finnish. But we need to do better work from the early get-go than what I have in terms of language skills. We could have that in the future.
This is mainly about companies, because companies are doing the hiring, and city can't do that much about it. Are they hiring Finnish-speaking people or people who don't speak Finnish? So, but of course, Espoo could do something. For example, organize some kind of events where companies and, for example, international students get together and they get to know each other, and maybe that helps to get some internship or something for the students already. And then I think Espoo could have a bit better environment and attitude about English-speaking persons. So because at least in social media there's a lot of videos that people are requiring Finnish services, and that's not. I think at least in every company it's not supposed to be like that.
My thought is that if it's significantly harder for foreign students to have a job or get a job here in Finland than it is for our own students, then what we could make of that is that the employment, the work culture, whatnot, it requires Finnish skills, and we should not try to change that to cater to foreign students. Instead, we should encourage them to learn Finnish, which is the language in which we operate in our society. And if there's a communication problem between the places who hire and the foreign students willing to work, we could try to make that connection better. I think that would serve everybody without sacrificing anything from what makes sense currently.
Kiitos paljon.
Thank you. Next to the next topic at hand, which would be services in Otaniemi, especially that of physical education and sports. So stay with me. There's a long spiel coming up. So let's go. So in Espoo, we have the highest prices for hobbies because most of the hobby prices are funded by the clubs themselves. Espoo has also hiked up the prices for clubs in accordance with its plan. In Otaniemi, we have a 50-50 split owned Otahalli between the city of Espoo and Otaniemi, which is culturally historically valuable, but also used a lot by students, the Aalto staff, and the clubs of the area. Otahalli, which is in Otaranta, is now coming to renovations, but the costs of this renovations should not fall down to the users, mainly the students themselves. So to the question actually at hand, how should Espoo ensure sports opportunities for young people and students without that the actual costs would be too high? Thank you for a good question. Personally, I have a background from soccer. I've been a coach and a referee, so I'm very close to sports. So low threshold sports should definitely be a thing. They prevent problems and are good for well-being. So we need to make all the things we can to make that accessible for everyone. For Otahalli, this is something that it requires renovations, and we should find money for that. That's kind of it. So at the same time, Espoo has several dozens of targets that need to be renovated, or new targets. Schools, daycares, we need dozens of them. So just raising this one thing above everything else and separating it from the context, it's a bit of a weird situation. So we need to look at all the targets. Then in Otaniemi, I would focus on that have outdoor sports. I was finishing my sentence. It was a long sentence. Thank you. We had good points from the previous speaker. I have a good sports background, strong sports background. These benefits in sports are very essential. Should be something that the municipality supports a lot. I can't really comment Otahalli because I don't know, but I'd say that careful planning, sustainable funding model, and of course, listening to the users when we start implementing these things is something that we should think of. How should we have that? So Here it's important that the municipality supports accessible low threshold sports opportunities and that this Finnish model of sports should be utilized. We're using it in elementary school, so if we could perhaps expand that to older age groups and support older young people's sports. It's happy to be here because we have good points. But I would, of course, state that it's important that we have free options. We might have free options, but also cheap options. Price should never be too high as a threshold, but I don't see it as realistic that we would have all options completely free. So the upcoming thing the increase isn't that high. That for students, if I understood correctly, sports turns out would like 5 people would be €2 per person, depending on place. We need to look at the level that it's sustainable, but some costs will still be incurred if we have free options available in tandem. So upper secondary and higher education is kind of the place to look at team sports. It's really important that the drop is not there. Happened to me, happened to many people, but like Otahalli, like these Jyväskylä targets, they're wonderful, they're very important. But I looked at this door handle when I came here and felt a tremor in my heart. But sometimes it's sensible to build a smaller thing, a smaller hall next to it. All in all, Espoo sports are very good. We have good places. From a central Finland resident's point of view, Otaniemi looks fantastic and Espoo looks fantastic. Thank you for the good question. Good points. I need to remind that last week, the city of Espoo, where we have the coalition members here, we did a decision, decided to purchase 1 swimming hall for the price of 2. So renovate Tapiola, no matter what the price, we can get that for 30 million. But they decided that we'll put 55. So we can afford, there's money abound, even though we really don't. I sit in a board of a club. We have about 100 young people doing sports up till 20 years of age. About with €200 a year, we can actually have a young person playing hockey once a week. So it doesn't need to be this broad thing. We have a lot of opportunities for these low threshold things to do these kinds of sports if we have a registered party. It's a good point for all kinds of organizations. Was in the ministry working there, so it's just very close to me. For Otahalli, the big thing is that the roof was done last year, 2 million for Espoo. So currently we don't have kind of a quick big problem. We can continue. It will be up on for renovations in the future. I would also remind the people that just movement is free. I ran here completely free. Did a jog, that was free, didn't cost any money. I understand that we are talking about these sports that cost because they have venues, but if a person wants to move, it is free. You don't need any expensive sneakers for it. Just you can have cheap sneakers as well. But outdoor gyms, we need more of that. Opportunities for everyone that are free, that would be key here. Thank you. I would also focus on the points that have been reiterating the importance of sports and health, and of course a communal part. And also I'd like to remind everyone for the point of view that, as was stated, that we have money, which was kind of an ironic comment that we don't have any money. Espoo is the most in-debt municipality in many parts. We don't have money for each and every topic that we'd like to do, but we can of course prioritize various projects. If we want to put sports places, then it's away from something else. That's what gains us the most with the least amount of problems. Taking the point in this debt, it's been an actually deciding where Espoo has funded its growth by taking debt. We could have chosen other ways, increase taxes or eat our investments, but we chose debt. And now we are, oh no, we have debt. When we have decided to take debt, we've also decided that we're not making investments over a certain threshold to real estate, which is swimming halls, places of sports, schools, and now we are wondering on why we have all kinds of debt for renovations and it all keeps tumbling down from the skies. But oh no, we actually have to repair things when we've just not repaired things because they couldn't fit in this framework that we created. So this Espoo way to run our finances leads to the fact where we have the second lowest tax, most debt, and huge debts for renovations, and we still lack dozens of schools. Is this sensible? I don't think so. Thank you for your good answers. And moving on to the next topic, which has to do with infrastructure project, which is student living. Housing is the biggest cost for students. Now, Orpo government is moving the students to the general housing allowance and cutting student allowance. How do we ensure that in Espoo we'd actually have houses for everybody, that students could actually focus on their job, which is studying? Thank you. Well, all in all, this is a very fastidious problem. There's lots of points. How can students focus on their studies? But what comes to that, the municipality should do zoning for more actually affordable housing. And we could have places that they could choose from to take their home from or move there. It's not just one thing, your house and the services there, but actually the required subsistence is also a thing. When we do decisions on a parliamentary level, which make it harder for students to live, in the municipal level, we should take care of this group of students, which is or the people, which is the students, and find means of support. For example, getting them affordable homes. One way would be zoning and city planning, ensuring that the city housing is in a situation where we can actually afford them. But this is a national problem. So yes, to shared flats, we can increase shared flats, but shared flats are not always the correct answer on how do students want to live. I would see that it's important that the decision makers in the city, when they see that in the next plan, we're looking at how increasing student housing will happen, take a stance, because the fact is that we don't have enough housing. We have lots of queues all around the country, and it's something a city alone can solve. Thank you for the good questions. Zoning is my answer. Zoning is very important. We need to listen to the students, student unions, other student bodies. Students know best where they want to live. We have kind of been eating our seed grains, borrowing from the Centre Party, that it cuts back on social mobility, and we can't lose engineers for the fact that they're not being supported and they can't find a home. the debt is something that is high, and it taxes the students. Which is a big problem for our workforce. So I'm a bit ashamed of the politicians' actions currently. Thank you for a good question and good answers. Maybe I should ask that should the home be close to your studies, or should the studies be accessible? We have a huge number of empty flats after the investment housing boom, the bubble burst. We have creative solutions available. And then I come from a bit of a different world. We live in the North Espoo, and our upper secondary school students come from Lahnus to Viherlaakso. They take a 30-minute bus ride, and it's okay. It doesn't need to be like around the corner. I've done my studies so that I haven't lived next to the school there. So there are various points of view here. For some it's very optimal, of course, to have it right close to home. But yes, zoning, yes, zoning is a big solution here for many parts. What's being built and where. Thank you. Good point. We also had the point that students don't want to live in shared flats. We should ask, well, where do the students want to live? I would kind of bring realism here, which is that if we are asking where do we want to live, we'll probably everybody doesn't actually want to live where they want to live. Some might, but not all. So life is not something that you can just live where you want, pay the rent you want, and get the amount of support you want. That's not how it goes. Like stated, we have houses, and we could actually get them a lot more cheaply if we were okay to live where we were 20 years ago, shared flats, etc. So we could need more realism to this discussion. Not all get what they want. That's it. So student housing might be a thing like this. Thank you for this common sense speech, because I completely agree with this. I feel that we don't really actually have anything that's broken fatally, that it would need fixing, because currently I feel like we have lots of student housing that is perfectly good for the needs of students. They are affordable. They're usually very accessible for public transport, so you can access your study places from them. Coming from like students might not be interested in the houses. I concur with the previous speaker here. That it's also a kind of look in the mirror that beggars can't be choosers. If people won't pay for their housing, there's kind of a level of how much can you make demands on what kind of housing you should have. Just everybody might not get this nice studio for every single individual for next to nothing. I made a question about on the municipality level in Espoo for student housing, and its Espoo city official answer was that these parliament cutbacks on these supports mean that students will be struggling to find housing in Espoo. Currently, actually getting a student flat is like winning the lottery, because we are doing cutbacks at the same time when we have unemployment on the rise. So students have it tough. People are going to the shared flats. I think AYY shared flats are 100% full. They are something that is going, but there's not enough of those to go around. Currently in Espoo, it is hard to find a flat for a student, be it what kind of broom closet where you want to live. Just be in a sensible under an hour of public transport. This is something we need to fix through zoning, but also improving the parking spot norm. I feel that it all comes from the fact that how much do we have? How many houses? How many on offer? What's the price? But so the market should help all students do not live in student flats. So it's important to take care that we also do the market flats, not just student housing in Espoo, because the more we have in marketing, the more we have on offer. So more urban cities, higher houses, more flats per square meter of land, and get this kind of Espoo culture going. We've talked about the housing car parking norm. We need more regulation to Espoo. It's odd that city is micromanaging building. Trust the market. What comes to national politics, now this right-wing government returned the income rates and also the investment tax. So there's no crisis. Then we have our last question before the yes no's. And this has to do with sustainable development. So to the barometer just published, most people hope that municipalities would take the benefits of nature and zoning into account. In its current strategy, Espoo is hoping to stop species destruction and destruction of nature. How should Espoo develop the nature?
Yes, we should preserve the nature areas as they are. I think it is also a good point because nature and biodiversity has a beneficial effect on people's well-being, their housing comfort. So it's very important that we preserve this nature. And I think it's quite absurd that construction and nature are kind of like pitted against each other in these voting aid machine questions, because they are not against each other. They can both contribute to each other. This kind of a random forced juxtaposition between them is completely unnecessary. Yes, thank you. I'll hold this standing up. How should Espoo promote biodiversity? Answer to everything seems to be zoning. Zoning kind of a building taller and a kind of a tighter. And we have this wonderful forest here, right in the center of Otaniemi, and I really hope that it would be preserved. We need to focus on ecological construction, more condensed construction, to have kind of a tighter building stock. Then it's also easier to have better public transport when buildings are not so sparsely situated. I'm kind of concerned of this answer of building more closely, building some more condensed nature and preserve biodiversity that way. We already live quite kind of in tight spaces, so we have become quite estranged from nature. Welcome to Northern Espoo, where I live, like in the wooded Espoo. And there the housing, they are sparsely located. People cherish the nature, respect it, don't destroy it. I think that biodiversity is realized much better there than in urban environments with a lot of concrete and tall buildings. Espoo Municipal Council, I think last or the one before that, the council, they approved of these 5 new nature conservation areas in Espoo. It's very nice that they have found these places. I think we should also be able to better make use of our nature archipelago, also for the betterment of people's well-being. For example, in Nuuksio, they have excellent trails and services like these overnight cottages, good services for camping. We should have more of this. Then we have, for example, these mountain bike trails in the Central Park. And people get health benefits from forests. And of course, it's important that not to build in places where we have already this very diverse forests. Thank you. Yes, as many have mentioned, we need to preserve biodiversity, especially in areas with especially valuable species present in the nature. And not zoning, construction or infrastructure projects in these places. Find some other place for those projects. Also making sure that, especially in places with a tightly built building, they also need to have a nature somewhere there as well. Because it really affects people's living comfort positively. In Espoo, the Green League has done a lot of work for the preservation of our nature. And for example, the Espoo Central Park, there is no kind of a road that would cut through it. Espoo is a peculiar city because there are a lot, many detached houses here, and then people wonder that why young people don't buy detached houses. They buy apartments from blocks of flats. And then at the same time, these detached buildings are not built, or yes, no new buildings are built. People don't even really understand how much space detached houses take and how much nature they take up, and also how much apartments cost. Graduates cannot afford a detached house right after graduation. So if you look at the big picture, these former industrial areas, we should build there and not build in the forest, cut them down. Yes, this is an important question because Espoo is growing very fast. About the double bigger growth than in Helsinki. And here what's very important is that we build in a kind of a smart way so that we take the nature into account. Having taller, more densely built buildings preserves nature, but we shouldn't go into a situation where there is no nature at all in these places where there are houses. But I need more kind of smaller houses, detached houses. Espoo has a unique opportunity to do more for the carbon footprint than when it look at its size. If we invest in innovations and high expertise, we can export these new products into the world to also preserve biodiversity also outside of Espoo. Thank you. I could have mentioned pretty much everything everyone else has said, so I won't repeat them. Continue from the previous speech, how Espoo should be quite ambitious, be a good example, lead by example to diverse city planning so that nature and housing are in balance in a sustainable way, and that we can answer this climate crisis and the problems arising from that. So Espoo could be a pioneer here in making bold decisions and having systematic follow-up, making science-based decisions. Thank you everyone for your answers. Now move on. Please remind everyone to keep your answers concise. Now we have this yes or no section. We have some statements here that you can answer either yes or no to. So yes is the yellow and no is the purple. Each of these are measures that also require financial investments, After this, you also have 90 seconds to give ground to your answers. And maybe answer the question that really kind of you feel spoke to you the most among these questions. So let's have the questions first, those statements. First, Espoo needs to be carbon neutral by 2030. Next. Espoo should have the flag, a pride flag up. Okay, thank you. The bicycle network here, the city bike network in Espoo should be expanded. Next. So I have a student discount also on individual HSL tickets. And fifth question. The metro should move also during night time. Next. Espoo needs to invest financially into the employment of international students. Thank you. And last question. Espoo should offer all services in 3 languages, Finnish, English, and Swedish. Thank you. Next, so the topic that you like. So let's continue from where we left off. So you have 90 seconds for this. Select one of these statements. Yes, very good questions or statements. I don't know if you'll be in carbon neutral by 2030, but it's a good goal. We should have the pride flag up. The network is kind of, for my commute, is kind of not wide enough, but yeah. And yes, certainly the individual tickets should have student discounts as well. Actually, it's faster for me to get with bus than metro, so that's why I'm not in favor of it. Just really invest in the employment of international students. Espoo should also offer all services in 3 languages. Well, no, it's a good tool for integration, actually. You cannot handle everything in English. And that's also a guarantee for integration, that learn the language. It's not sustainable that you just handle everything in English. It's important to also know Finnish, Swedish here in Finland. Yes, thank you. Yes, this yes, no. It's always kind of, it's not easy. Yes, I think Espoo should be carbon neutral, but 2030 may be too fast, but that's a good goal. And there are many things that we can do, especially on the real estate side, for this. The technology will help. For question number 2, for the pride flag. Yes, we have these fantastic minorities in Finland and Espoo. But we don't need to put them under kind of the Finnish flag. I don't think we need this kind of individual flags. The city bike network, I answered no. I think we should promote cycling. Well, I've used the city bikes, they're not very good. I'd rather use my own bike. And we could have better facilities to park your bikes. Student discount to individual tickets, HSL tickets. The technology, I don't know if the ticket technology has developed enough. Maybe it has, so we could do this. The subway should move, metro should move during nighttime. Well, if there's demand for it, then of course. And yes, and so on. Yes, they're going to focus more on the city bikes. It's a good invention. It really makes moving around easier. And if it's wider, then we would have more users. Of course, it'd be nice if we would have more city bikes instead of these electric scooters. Maybe we use these electric scooters. But if you go the same path with a city bike versus an electric scooter, it will have a big impact on your own well-being if you select the bike. And this is kind of the biggest point here. Of course, we should also make it easier to use bikes here. And not everyone has their own bicycle, so we should also make the city bikes easier to use. And of course, and they are also planned for just going the part of a leg of the trip with the bike. So that's a great for that. And yes, I am all in favor of the city bikes and the expansion of the network.
Thank you. So a few points. First of being the carbon neutrality. If it would happen kind of in an urban method without actually doing anything, nobody would actually oppose it. But is it bad that one single Finnish city become carbon neutral when it doesn't, from a global point of view, have any sort of point? We don't really need to gimp ourselves if the others won't do the task. Then about pride flags, no lähetys for Espoo, no degradation for Espoo. I don't see why we couldn't have metro during the night. It should come in accordance with the supply and demand. About student prices, it would be sensible and righteous that is language questions, foreign students getting employment and services in different languages. We hope that in Finland we will communicate with our own national languages, Finnish and Swedish. Espoo has a roadmap to carbon neutrality, and Espoo companies focus on the fact that Espoo will be carbon neutral so that their credibility will be intact. About public transport, Greens have been the only one that are ready to put money. Night metro is fun, but it costs. We have people that don't want to pay the costs, they just want to have. We could just have proposals that it would be nice to have the night metro, but if you don't have the funding, that will not happen. Same about the city bikes. We have hope that we could get more. But we use the same amount of money for a piece of road that would save 300 people 2 minutes instead of using money for city bikes and a bike road for the city center of Espoo, which we have 20,000 people. So it's all about using the money. What would be the most beneficial part to boost people moving? So these are the examples we have. We have money for cars, but when we talk about public transport or bikes, all things are too expensive that we could actually do anything. So, and I just leave that in Espoo. We have the Finns and the coalition. Currently, they did the proposition of cutting off the pride. I was defending it, and we could stay and have still have pride. Let's see what we can do. Carbon neutrality, that's a goal for Espoo and a point of success. And this is happening a lot in Espoo organically, that we could don't want to stop this development. Espoo has potential, not just about pride. Pride is a matter of progress and equality, so I support that. Student discounts, yes, for single tickets is a nice idea, but in this HSL situation, so let's keep the monthly payments for student tickets cheaper than single payments. It would be nice, but I focus that we need to be realistic in terms of that the metro should be up longer, probably not 24/7. It wouldn't be prudent, but I would say that at least buses should go through the night. We can't have like a total stop that the taxi would be the only option after X o'clock. That's not very modern. But we could have a metro until 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., what would be seen as sensible. Espoo should offer all its services in 3 languages, yes, but also we need to focus more funds on making people integrate. First off, short point, Espoo 2030 carbon neutrality, like I stated, that it's important that we take good goals on how to achieve XYZ. How do we take our own practices towards a carbon neutral future? And through that, we can be trailblazers for several things. For pride flags, yes, I agree that it should be continued. It's a part of solidarity, equality, equity. City bike network would be good to expand. Not all might have money for their own bicycle, so the city could offer these on a broader spectrum and enable this for more people. Student discounts on single tickets, I would see that it's a supportable thing, but we can support student subsistence through this. Metro, buses, etc., and combining them in a more broad strokes. What's been done is that at one stage of the night, you can only take a taxi. That's not actually very plausible. That's not very sustainable. Yes, thank you. Looking at that I remember all the points. Carbon neutrality has been lifted as a point. We don't cancel that. Don't want to cancel that because otherwise they stated that it's seen as an opportunity in we could driving motor of that. Pride flags, yes. I was very disappointed last year when we had the discussion of Espoo would not be participating in the Pride. I see that it would be a very progressive point. I think it's important that Espoo shows that we are an open city, that we are creating an openness where everybody feels at home. Student discounts, I feel that yes, when we talk about in the Helsinki area, in some places we have kind of a discount ticket because it's a small area. Why in Espoo, why would students not get a discount when we think about new ways of getting these tickets, and that students might live so close you don't need this big ticket, that would be nice that you get the discount. Discounts on metro during nights, yes, but not 24/7, but most of the night do the timetables actually sensibly. That's it. Yes, thank you for these points at this stage. We have our final questions on my parts. We still have some final questions after that from the audience, but I would ask that ask with one phrase quickly. As a person who has moved into Otaniemi during my studies, I think that many others here might be in the same situation. Give us one reason why should students care about what happens in Espoo? Because everybody who lives in Espoo, and even though you live outside of Espoo, should focus on about Espoo things. This is the one of the primus motors of economic growth. Things that happen in Espoo have an impact abroad, and largely I would try to be concise, short and concise. Where people live, you should care about those areas because they affect you and your friends. Yes, like stated, why care about anything? Because Espoo is a part of Finland and Finland is a part of the world, and all of these tie in with one another, so you shouldn't be phlegmatic who doesn't care about anything. Even though if you might not be interested in Espoo, Espoo is interested in you and the place of students, and has weakened in the past years. Students are a significant part of Espoo. If you don't vote, the older people will. In Espoo, municipality members are usually, council members are 50 years of age, so use your voice. In municipalities, we build the base for the well-being of tomorrow in order for students and others to care about the future of their municipality equals that they will take the space to affect. People who are in the municipal council will get their interests taken care of, so affect who's there. So student, you might have a lot of resources, but you have a lot of power as an Espoo resident. Thank you. If you don't have any questions from the audience, we have 10 minutes. This is Sonia run. So thank you to all the panelists. My name is Hettarimpia from OLL, asking about sports, but you had actually good points for sports. If you get chosen, you will develop student sports. But about participation, if you get chosen, how do you ensure as a decision maker that the voice of students is heard in Espoo and its development? So keep the answers very short and brief. So we have a good youth council through which the voice of students and the young people is heard. You all had a good point. If we could get younger people here to decide, then we could hear the students' voice more. I agree. The democracy of students is important for them to be interested in this and hear from the youths themselves. There might be good points. This term I have done a lot of cooperation with AYY, and these student housing things we have discussed with AYY. I agree that the cooperation with students with AYY needs to be intensified, and the city could be more initiative like in Otaniemi digitalization and zoning. Ask the students about their opinions. Also fulfilling that in addition to having digital information or digital means of information, I would say like doing the grassroots work amongst the students, meeting them, listening to them, what's actually something that people want. It's actually sought after. I work in student advocacy. I know that there are networks on how can we meet students, not just AYY, but on the school side, we have schools in Espoo, and I feel that students could think of what could be these essential things. Young people and students are why I am in politics. So today I have organized electoral panel for upper secondary schools. I organized young people's elections. I recruit and also build young people into democratic actives. It's seen in all my political activities. Thank you. This is an excellent question. Good points. My interest here for student things is for the next 20 years, like I stated. I have 7 kids. The oldest is 17 and the youngest is 2. And the oldest one is in upper secondary school. So I do have the interest about what the young people and children could get because of my own children.
Hi everyone, thank you all for the presentations. My name is Gelita. I'm an international student studying at School of Arts. So I wanted to ask a question about this. As you might know, Aalto University is representing students from business, engineering, but also art students. And due to proposed cuts in the culture and arts sector at the national level, in what ways could you concretely support the advancements of art and culture in the city of Espoo? Thank you.
Varmistaisit sen, että taiteen tulee edustetuksi taiteen kulttuuri niin kuin Espoossa. Se varmistat sen. Vai varmistat?
Yeah, good question. The situation
Answer in English.
in fiscal policy has been very difficult and the cuts have not been pleasant, but they have been absolutely vital to ensure our success in the future in many more things than just art and the creative field. But I think there could be some low threshold things that people could do, and we should try to make that happen. But it should try to cost us a little as possible.
In the last budget negotiation in Espoo, we actually did get some more money to the cultural sector, and this was a priority for the Greens. But of course, it was not enough to subsidize the cuts that the government made. So I think we need to have more impact in the cultural sector and also as a society to understand the role of culture and art when we are trying to navigate the changes that we are currently having and all the crises, because I feel the culture and art are the ways that to help people handle their feelings and make some sense in this crazy world. So I feel that it's very important and really happy that we have also arts in Aalto University.
First about the sums, government is spending over 500 million euros to culture, and now the cuts were something like 17 million. So of course it hurts in the cultural sector, but still after these cuts, the government is spending millions and millions of euros to culture. So we still have good culture after these cuts in Finland and in Espoo. But when it comes to Espoo, we have to focus on that we have low threshold hobbies in schools for all kids, regardless of their background. And when it comes to infrastructure, we have to focus on that we get the new Espoo Theatre to Tapiola, which is a big investment, and also new football stadium to Tapiolan Urheilupuisto. These both develop the cultural environment in Espoo.
Well, overall, I find like arts and culture is a vital part of our society. So I find the latest cuts in the budget very unfortunate. And students who have to sort of face the consequences of it are, well, they're not in a pleasant situation. As a possible representative of the municipality, I would try to find and build sort of opportunities to maybe create like new ways of collaboration between perhaps the local like work and the art student sort of in more specific, in order to find ways that could benefit in the future, both sides.
As mentioned, every city and every municipality needs some kind of culture to thrive and some kind of culture to keep people there engaged in the life of the city or municipality. And we do need hobbies, but we also do need like art that is made on a professional level. Those both are important and they serve a different purpose from each other. And as stated, the municipality or the city can subsidize in its entirety the costs that are made on state level, but I feel like it's important to see what we can prioritize and how we can support still and build more collaboration between the private sector and arts. Obviously, not everything can be done there because that's also kind of limits the whole scene, but I feel like new opportunities could rise from there as well.
By making it more used and more useful. For example, we have Tässä in Espoo, where the arts and culture is used in elementary schools. We could do that more, a lot more, so that people feel the need for affirming the budget for the arts. Something else, maybe a municipality tax raise, probably. That could fix the problem.
Kiitos.
Thank you. I have personally gotten a good upbringing. Started in the music school, Juvenalia, when I was 5 years old. I still play the piano. So my kids played the piano. I go to take them to trainings every week. So what's done in houses? What can we do as decision makers? How do we encourage our young people to take their children to the art? We can do a lot of investments for stadiums, but how do we get this interest in culture and arts into children? It starts from the home. So culture is important.
Espoo has always been very positive towards arts and culture, but we also need to bring up that individuals are actually the biggest supporter and financier to the arts and culture. I think we should bring that up more and maybe a little bit kind of push them to bring the money to the artists more now.
Panelists, I'm studying here as an international at Aalto, and for one of the yes and no questions, the one that Espoo should offer all services in Finnish, Swedish and English, some of you have said no, but I believe not everybody justified their position in that, so I would like to ask from those who said no why, and from those who said yes, why do they think it's important? I would want to emphasize that Espoo has 23.6% inhabitants whose native language is not Finnish nor Swedish, and while I understand it's important to teach the national languages, people live here for the time when they don't yet speak them either.
Thanks, Mark, for a good answer. I think it was more like official language. And the official language is more about like the official papers, and it's not a service language. So I think the services has to be in all the three languages, but when we are talking the official papers, I'm not sure if all of them need to be translated all of the language, because then it's like official wording and it's quite hard. But at least the city councils should be translated in English also.
Well, I think that also the English services are important because that's the way we can firstly get international students and workers here in Espoo more easier, and also I think that it helps them to integrate in the Finnish society. It's hard to get information if we have it only on Finnish and Swedish, but at the same time we should make it also more, if people stay here, we should focus on that they integrate to the Finnish society even better. And I think that we can't survive without foreign students and workers, because we have even less and less babies burning in Finland, so that's why we also have to have good English services.
Yes, thank you for the good question. I answered yes. I find that it should be an ultimate goal for Espoo as a very sort of multinational environment and city to support the integration of foreign or international students or the foreign base in our population. I understand that it requires a lot of resources and it would take time to develop all the sort of services so that it would include English, but I find that as a sort of an ultimate goal that could be reached at some point.
I answer no only on the fact that I don't think that it's realistic. I do think that vital services should be in English, but at this moment we don't even get the Swedish services, and that's in the law. So I don't see that we're going to come up to that goal anytime soon, but I feel like that would be very good for Espoo. It would be very good to gain more international professionals here. But as I said, that's going to take like a lot of time, a lot of resources. That I don't think many people will want to prioritize into that, because that also costs a lot of money.
Yeah, the vital services absolutely need to be in English, and preferably in every language that Espoo citizens use. I'm an elementary teacher, so I teach in English and as well as in Finnish. I have some students that are 15 and they refuse to use Finnish, and I don't really think that's reasonable for them. It's not a service for them to use English in everything, because they need to be integrated, and it's better for them themselves to be integrated in this language. But your question was really good. The vital services need to be in English. But as well, kids, I think that they will be taught in Finnish and in Swedish in some ways, at least.
Kiitos. Mä taisin vastata jees siihen kysymykseen, mitä kysyttiin.
Thank you. I think I answered
ihan sitä mieltä, että se on...
Yes. I think it's a big question. That it would be possible to handle your business in all three languages. It's important that we would have also a language in use in Finland widely that is also spoken widely around the world.
5 questions, and the main idea was, where am I willing to put money? And in my mind I said that because we don't have that much money right now, we need to focus where to put the money. And for these 3 languages, I think right now we need to put it where it's most needed. And in the future, I would be very happy to see it everywhere, but right now it will cost too much. That's what I think.
Yes, I think the financial aspect is also important, but the reason I think I answered no is that we must not diminish the incentive for people who don't yet speak Finnish to learn Finnish, because it's the language that we use in our society, and if we don't have a shared language, it's debatable whether we even have a society at all. So it's of utmost importance, and there are people who have lived in the country for even 20 years and they still need translation services, which people are, by the way, entitled to if they need them. So that's not a goal of ours whatsoever.
No, kiitos paljon.
Yes, thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you for the good questions from the audience as well. Yes, thank you. And we will wrap this up. Yes, very wonderful to have all of you here today. And we'll remind everyone that it's important to vote. So remember to vote in the municipal and regional elections. The actual election day is the 13th of April, but the voting already starts on the 2nd of April. And we want to wish everyone a very sunny rest of the afternoon. Thank you.